Hi guys, my name is Cormie, and today I want to bring you guys some commentary on a 24 Halls Atonement that we did a few weeks ago with the Alexes Bursting, Volcanic, and Fortified. As you see, we're all making sure that we aren't stepping forward because we don't want to proc the RP on these first two that are running in right now. If you run forward before the wall goes down, then they'll proc the RP depending on the pull you do. Sometimes that matters, sometimes that doesn't. So we do this big pull first and we pop everything, and I always SLT on pull to try and save my tank's cheat. Otherwise all those things come in, they all melee him like at the same exact time, and he almost always is a cheat there. If you're running the feather trinket from Sun King, it's also a good place for you to put that. And then we're basically just going to be cleaving the rest of this down. The only thing that I'm really worried about here is making sure that I'm getting kicks on the Wicked Bolt Obliterator. That's the moon right here. That Wicked Bolt hurts a lot. I think there's two of those in here and we already killed one of them. Maybe helping get stops on the Houndmaster if they're trying to enrage the bears. Putting down Earthen Wall Totem, you can see that I put down to slow them all so my tank has room to kite, and also to make sure that they're all staying in that flame patch. And of course, prepping for the bursting here because it's the bursting week. Okay, so after we finish these two, we want to skip these two because we're going to do those in a big pull later on to get a good pride here. So normally you would just have like a rogue sap it, but sometimes we run with a Windwalker. What we do is we paralyze it and then we bring it. Sometimes it gets knocked off, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, we can get past it without getting in combat if we do it this way. And then we're going to start this next big pull. So this is a bunch of groundskeepers, two bears, and a Houndmaster. This is really scary for your tank. Those groundskeepers seem like they're not that scary, but they melee for a lot. So what we're going to do here is we're going to prep for our mage. He's told us now that he has combust up in 8 seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to save all of our trees, and we run the belt that creates like the cardboard assassin, the little dummy, which you saw me just put down right there. You can see like the timer for it down here. I know you can't see the full thing because my camera's blocking part of it. Sorry about that. And so we usually just like train those for the combust so they all stay in the flame patch and get the full damage. So as these things are dying, we want to start thinking about pulling this Gargan here. The nice thing about Halls is that you get a Gargan for basically every single pride. Gargans and Halls are so good. It's so important. Like, I shouldn't say it's important you have an event there, but man, it's going to make your life so much easier, especially for this week. For this week, it's really nice if I can save my Ascendants for every single shard. That way I can use it whenever we get the big bursting stacks. We're always pulling groundskeepers. So whenever there's usually like the second thrash that goes out or something, there's usually like a bunch of like bursting stacks and they're really slow rolled because everything's like dying like unevenly because target cap lol. So yeah, normally I want to try and save that. So I'll mostly just be using Monetite Totem here. Always try to make sure you wait until the pride is active to take the Stoneborn to get max value on it. Although I guess with the change, it's not really a thing that's going to happen anymore since the Gargan lasts much longer now. Yeah, for this pride, because we have the Stoneborn, I'm not going to have to pop Ascendants. I'm probably just going to end up committing like my Monetite Totem here, which I'm just going to spam Chain Heal. And even then, like running Monetite Totem like in this dungeon isn't even necessary. You could definitely get away with running the Earthquake Lego. However, that thing just isn't going to live on any of the trash pools, so you probably just end up using it on prides anyways. Using legendaries in this dungeon is a little bit awkward. Alright, so after this, we're going to go into the shard. So whenever I get in, it's always like my mage is like, oh, I'm going to kick the left one, I'm going to kick the right one, so I always make sure I put whichever one I'm kicking on focus and kicking as much as possible. We don't kick any of the curses. However, you as a healer cannot be the one dispelling the curses. Like if you are the only curse dispel in your group, then your group needs to kick the curses. If there's 2 other curse dispels in your group, then nobody needs to kick the curses, and you just need to have your DPS making sure that they're getting the curse dispel. And then you need to be focusing on just getting the Siphon Life dispel. You're the only one that can dispel Siphon Life, and Siphon Life is super deadly. That dot hurts for a lot. But yeah, as you can see, we have 6 bursting stacks here while he's doing the thrash, and that's why I'm happy that I got to save my Ascendants. Thank you, Stoneborn, for allowing me to do that. Okay, so this guy, while he's kind of like dying, our tank I think is going to leave away here and go start the next pull soon because we just have this shard to cleave down, and he moves really slow and he's pretty easy for us to kill. Yeah, so we're just gonna be killing him. You're gonna see our Windwalker. He's often like, whenever he doesn't have defensives, he's going to be like running out and then like running back in. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. It's just a good idea for you as a healer to like communicate like, oh, I got you here, stay in. That's like an instance where I should have been like, hey, just stay in, I'll healing start spamming you, but he was already running out by the time I saw that he was doing that. I was like, ah, it's okay. But yeah, trying to make sure you're communicating with their melee. Like if you can't heal them through the thrash, because you probably have to put like at least 2 healing surges in them for them to live a thrash. So making sure you're communicating whether they can stay in or not is really important for uptime on those things. Okay, so this next pull has 2 obliterators on it, a bunch of the groundskeepers from down below. This pull can be a bit annoying because there's a pat, and if the pat is here, then you end up having to wait for it. So I think this is a really good pull. However, the pat can really ruin it for you if you don't get a good timing. So take that with caution. But yeah, we're just going to be doing as much as we can to CC here. There's no collector here. The collector is the one that does the siphon life. There's only collectors in like the shard pulls and then a couple of pulls after the second boss echelon. So outside of that, whenever there's a curse, you can dispel it. It's just you need to make sure you're paying attention if there's a collector to make sure that you aren't wasting your dispel on a curse and you're always saving it for the depraved collector when they cast siphon life. Yeah, so you're gonna see your tank just kiting a lot, and we're gonna be doing as much as we can to try and help him out. I should put down, well, I just put on a cap totem, but I should also be putting down more earthbinds here. I don't always do a great job of that. I think our Windwalker is usually slowing them as much as he can. So you're gonna see our tank, he's running away. He's gonna go and pull this Stoneborn. So whether you pull the Stoneborn for this pride or not also depends on that pat. Like I think this is like the only time where we were able to pull this Stoneborn, where the timing worked out. It's just really nice because otherwise this is the Stoneborn we usually pull with the first boss, but since we pulled it with this, then we don't end up having to wait for the pat to pull that into the first boss. That pat kind of can eat away a lot of your time in this dungeon if you rely on pulling the Stoneborn and the Groundskeepers the way we did. Again, I'm going to be trying to save as much as I can for or not as much as I can, just at least Ascendance. Ascendance is like the only thing I really care about having, and I also care about having Chain Harvest because I want to do big dam. And so I'm mostly just going to use Monotide Totem. It's probably too late for me to Healing Tide, but I might end up blinking here. Okay, I don't need to. The Stoneborn just owns so much in this dungeon. Alright, so this next pull is going to be all these Groundskeepers onto the Shard, and there's a Collector here, so I gotta make sure that I am not dispelling curses. My 2 DPS are getting the curses, and I'm saving my dispel for the Siphon Life. So whenever the Thrash is going out, you want to try and make sure that you are 38 yards away or more so that you're not getting hit by the Thrash itself. You see me going in and out because I'm trying to make sure that I'm healing, and this is where I'm going to pop my Ascendance. I made sure I moved into the middle here because Ascendance only has a 20-yard radius, so if I was still standing back here it wouldn't be hitting any of my melee, so I made sure that I'm getting in between, and since the Thrash is going to go out, I'm going to move out again. There's that Siphon Life cast I need to make sure that I'm dispelling. Yeah, and then again we just have another shard here that we have to single target down. We'll probably end up actually, I don't think we'll end up pulling anything onto this. I'm thinking about our old route, so we're probably just going to end up single targeting this thing down. Actually, no, our tank is going to go run away. Our Windwalker is scared. He has no defenses up, so he's going to run out. Usually, like the first 3, he'll like Karma 1, Fortitude 1, and then by the 3rd is usually where he's kind of dry, and he ends up leaping out like that. So yeah, we have, oh, actually just getting the one Groundskeeper that we needed, I guess. Alright, so after this, we're gonna go kind of into the first boss room downstairs and do a pull over there to proc Pride. We have one little Groundskeeper chasing us, and my tank is kind of off by himself. I definitely should have left further to chase him, but he usually pulls it up. So this pull, if I remember correctly, gets a little bit sketchy for us. The Houndsmaster can do a sleeper amount of like good damage with their rapid fire. You just saw me put down my Cardboard Assassin because this pull is pretty scary for your tank. There's 2 Gargans and the Houndmaster, and then the Dark Blade, which is the frontal, and the Obliterator, which I have on focus right now, and I'm trying to get as many kicks on as I can. And he doesn't want to like, he doesn't have like, number one, he doesn't have like a whole lot of room to kite. Like he can go up these stairs, but he's also just like really focused on always trying to keep mobs in the flame patch. So even though he's trying not to take damage, he's going to, and also we let the Enrage get off on the Gargan. I think he got hit a couple times. Yeah, other than that, we're also looking right now to make sure that we're going to be CCing this before we go into the next shard because we don't want to pull this. The theme is we want to pull as few like Houndmaster and Gargan packs as we can, like this, and then the first 2 Houndmasters I think are the only ones we end up pulling. We used to actually have a route where we would try and skip this, but that was that got way too sketchy with having, or not sketchy, but time consuming if you got like bad pats on having to wait for that thing. Yeah, so we're getting this pride. So normally what I suggest you do for this pride is you pull this Stoneborn up here, but for some reason our tank, as soon as he did it, he was like, oh, this was a mistake. He pulled this Stoneborn. Normally we'd always pull this one, and then we could save this one for the boss or whatever. It depends on if you got the Stoneborn on the other side that we got for the second pride, how that would work. But normally how it would work is we'd pull this for the one we did before the second shard. Sorry, that was probably really confusing to follow. But yeah, anyways, the point is that you should pull this Stoneborn, because when you go over to this shard and you want your range to max range, they're not gonna have anywhere to stand without pulling the Stoneborn. So basically we decided while we were doing this that the next Stoneborn, we're gonna pull the next Stoneborn into the next shard. Normally we would save it for the boss, and we're actually not gonna have a Stoneborn for the first boss. It's not really a huge deal. The Stoneborn does good cleave damage. We just usually like it on the boss because we don't have like insane single target. So yeah, I'm just gonna send the Stoneborn into the pack, and then we have all the groundskeepers. We have a collector, so again, I'm not dispelling curses. I'm saving my dispel for Siphon Life every single time. And also, because of how sketchy the end of that pack was and how much we were talking, I ended up having to commit Ascendance there. So I'm not gonna have Ascendance for these bursting stacks here, which is a little bit spooky because we're going to keep slow rolling them. Like I said, they all die super uneven, and then also the big mobs end up dying as well, so you get up to a 7 stack, but it's fine. We can totally heal through it. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is this corner pack over here after this shard. And we have this 3-pack over here, in case you're wondering, the one that's padding. We always, like during like the pride or during the pack prior, we have like our mage sheep it, or we have our druid root it or something to keep it over there. Yeah, he's rooted over there. So we're gonna do this pack, and then we're gonna pull the boss. And this middle pack that's kind of in front of the boss that you would normally always pull, especially in a pug, you would always pull. We actually don't pull that, and we end up just like kiting the boss all around this area to not pull that pack, because like I said, we really don't like Houndmaster packs. Those things hurt, and they make your tank have to kite a lot, and they're just really dangerous. So we like to avoid them as much as possible. Yeah, this pack is pretty boring, so I'll probably skip ahead a tiny bit into the boss. Okay, so we're gonna pull the boss. We're all standing in the back because we want to bait the first throw he does to the back here before we start moving forward to preserve as much space as possible. It's important though that when you're standing in the back that you don't stand on your mage's rune because you want to give him the least likely chance that his rune gets ruined by the stuff he puts on the ground. I can't remember what it's called when he puts it on the DPS with the glass. The heavy debris, that's what it's called. Yeah, and then we're just going to keep on moving, and then after we get out of there, we don't really care as much about preserving space. We have quite a lot of space to kite the boss. You can take him all over this room, and we cleared most of it, so we're not too worried. And I'm probably mostly just going to skip this boss because it's pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure you're dodging the circles. Don't put it on your mage's rune combust. And make sure you're healing your tank. Your tank can actually take quite a bit of damage here, so just make sure you're paying attention to that. Skip a tiny bit more. Okay, so next pack we do is we pull this 3-pack on the left with the Stoneborn. So we're still fighting the Stoneborn because I don't want to MC the Stoneborn until we actually start the pride. So we're just fighting the Stoneborn, which is really annoying because our tank is taking a lot of damage. There's actually a way that you can pull the Stoneborn into the first boss, and then maybe you could save a Stoneborn, like maybe the Stoneborn in the back or something for the next pride or something. I don't exactly know how those routes work. I just want to let you know that if you, while this gate is up, there is a way, I think it's for Moonkins who have increased range, to pull the Stoneborn into this boss without pulling those other 2 before you even defeat the first boss. Don't know if it works after you kill the first boss. No idea how that works, I've never done it. I've only seen it on stream. So yeah, next we just have this Manifestation of Pride, and again, same thing. I'm gonna basically commit like no CDs. Something I do remember, because I usually watch the VOD back before I do my commentary, is I do end up committing Link here when really I should have just ascended. Like right here when I saw we were like this low, like if you don't need, like Ascendance on the next boss is really useless. Ascendance for the Trash Chapter really useless. Only thing that's really good for the next boss in my opinion is Link. So I like panic linked at the end here because the Stoneborn went away and the thing was still alive, and really I should have just realized that we were completely sandbagging and popped Ascendance. So just a side note, hindsight is 2020. Okay, so next thing for this boss, there's nothing really too special for it. You just want to make sure that whenever the ads spawn, Like when they're spawning, maybe put down a healing rain, and then when they spawn, put down a cloud burst. So you can start like juicing that up so that like once like, because the most damage that comes in this fight is when the ads themselves explode. When the ads die, they explode and they do damage. Especially when you go into this boss with Lust and Pride like we do, these things are gonna die really, really fast. Unless somebody's taking extra damage like from the bolts and stuff like that, it's not ever gonna kill them. Like just the damage. It's only like if they live long enough for the bolts to go off that you have to really worry about someone dying. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about was dispelling the curses. So normally you always just want to make sure that you're dispelling whoever the circle is on. But the way that we do it, because we have 3 curses spells, is like my Boomkin, I always dispel him. And then the mage always dispels himself. And then the Boomkin always dispels whoever gets the circle. The reason we do it that way is because if the circle's on me, I want to be able to see, the circle's on me, immediately get into Ghost Woof, immediately get like that, like the ticking of the speed boost. Instead of having to use the global to dispel and then getting Ghost Whip, it just makes it a bit more consistent for me to make sure that I'm always going to run out of the circle if I don't have Goblin Jump Up. Most of the time, unless I get it twice in one fight, I'm always going to have Goblin Jump Up, so it's not a problem. But there's no loss at all to doing it this way. It's just an extra safe way for us to do it. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to skip ahead a tiny bit again. Alright, so next we're going to go into this big pull. I think our mage... Yeah, our mage is combusting. I was about to say, normally, sometimes we pull this pack out of the room. It kind of just depends. I think we'll pull out of the room when we do like a double pull. But yeah, this pull can get really scary as well because of the Gargans on your tank. This is like a huge culprit of stealing your tank's cheat deaths. And right now we're trying really hard to save the cheat deaths because we want to be able to pull the next pack onto the boss. So yeah, we let the Enrage get off because there's 2 Houndmasters. It's kind of hard to get both of the stops on those guys when they do their loyal beasts. And it's really important for your tank to stay, I think they have to stay within a certain range for the Gargans. Sometimes if your tank runs like really far away for a long time, the Gargans will kind of turn to one of your melee and start hitting them. So you want to make sure that you're kiting them, but you're staying close. If you can. So yeah, now all we have are these Gargans up, so he's just going to keep kiting them. Our tank spends like 70% of Halls of Atonement, like just kiting mobs. Barely gets to play the game. This dungeon is like really... I've heard a lot of tanks say this is their least favorite dungeon, even though it's like about to be one of the easier ones. Like it's really stressful as a tank because so many things can just kill you. Alright, so this next pull we're gonna do, we're pulling the mobs onto the boss. So again, there's a collector, so you want to make sure that you're saving your dispel for the Siphon Life. You are not dispelling the curse. So you want to, and you also have to make sure that you're getting kicks on the boss. So what we do when we go in here is it's me and the mage kicking the boss. We're only going to be kicking volley. I need to dispel him. And then I think I already MC'd the Gargan. Yeah, I already MC'd the Gargan when we ran in. And then the mage and I are just communicating kicks. I told him to make sure you dispel me. I almost dispelled myself and then I remembered I need to save it. And then just dodging. This pull looks really scary, but it's actually pretty dang easy. Just as long as you're able to get the dispels. And then after those mobs die, we're going to pull in the next Stoneborn. Someone who has like 45 yards of range, which is usually like a mage or a boomkin can pull the other one. You can also pull both of the Stoneborns into the boss. And as long as like, if you have it like bounce like an extra action button or whatever, you can pull both in and MC both at the same time as long as like as soon as you're done MCing one, you start MCing the other, like immediately. You can't take like a second in between MCing them both. So it only really works if you do it at the beginning of the boss and there's something you really have to dodge. So the next Stoneborn's coming in. So whenever the Stoneborn is coming in, I always make sure that I'm getting close to the gate so that I can MC it like as soon as it's in range. I can usually MC it before, because whenever it comes in, the first thing they'll usually try and do is Stone Breath. So you don't really have to worry because there's a cast time and you'll finish your cast first, assuming that there's not a swirly that spawns underneath you, because that could be a bit unfortunate. I'm going to skip a bit of the rest of the boss because it's a really boring boss. All the bosses in here are honestly very boring. The next thing we have is the church. So something I want to talk about is I want you to make sure that when you run in and you need a drink, that you get in the room before you start drinking. If you start drinking outside, and let's say your tank goes in and they like, you know, just throw glaive or just like body pull Inquisitor or something. This will especially happen in like pugs or something, and you have like your shield on them, then it will have the mini boss like snap outside and he'll like be meleeing through the floor. We lost a 24, like another 24 key this week to that happening because he bugged out, and then we like killed him, and then he like respawned in here with full health, and we had to kill him again. And it was just tragic. Yeah, this room, you mostly just want to make sure you're helping kill the ghosts. Once these manifestations spawn, they're really scary. They do a lot of damage, especially if someone gets unlucky and they get fixated by a bunch. So I would suggest you always have Earth Ellie for these manifestations. Like, the way their aggro works is really weird. Sometimes they do hit whoever has aggro, sometimes they just have the line. I don't actually fully understand. I just know that it hurts, and that in this room, Spirit Link is also really good for saving someone. Spirit Link is definitely your best friend in this room for saving someone. And also, while all this is going on, you want to make sure that you're getting as many kicks on the Inquisitor as you can, because those things scale up and they hurt quite a bit on your tank. So just do that. So again, I'm going to skip a little bit. So this pride is usually the pride in this dungeon that you'd skip. All the other prides you don't really skip because you have a Stoneborn to help you with it and they're just free because of it. But this pride we usually skip. It's just, I think someone potted or something on the last pull for pad or something. We're like, oh, okay, never mind, we're gonna kill it. So this pride we actually have to kill with our hands. It's also kind of common for some people to pull this pride into the boss. I think we tried that once. It didn't go that well. It's a little bit hard with the statues moving and having to dodge lines at the same time. It's definitely easier if you have lust as well. We tried doing it without lust. Yeah, you're just gonna innervate me. The first thing I usually do, I've talked about this on my video, so sorry if it's repetitive, is I usually always pop Healing Tide and my Monotide Totem first. And then I will Chain Harvest into Ascendance. Oh, I actually didn't Chain Harvest this time. I guess I didn't need it. I probably wanted to save it for damage or something. I'm not really sure. This was a few weeks ago, so I don't really quite remember. Yeah, I think I managed to save it for damage here. Maybe I end up having to use it for healing. This does seem to be getting a little bit spooky. Okay, it's dead. Touch of Death owns. Alright, this next boss, pretty simple. The only thing to really talk about it is during the soak phases to make sure that you're trying to double soak. So what that means is when it puts the 4 pillars around him, you can have someone stand in between 2 lines and soak 2 lines, but they only take as much damage as if they were soaking 1. And if you do it that way, instead of having to heal 4 people through the damage, you just have to heal 2 people through the damage. Now, unfortunately, in this video, we don't do a good job of demonstrating it. It's only like every time I do it, I'm double soaking, and the other side, the 2 of them are always just not double soaking. But I'll do my best to show you here what I mean. So you have to get basically just like get like right in his hitbox. So, oh, I'm not doing it on this one. I'm doing it on the next one. Okay, let's skip ahead a tiny bit. Okay, on this one, you can see I'm sitting in the middle and I'm double soaking, and then the Druid and the DH are both soaking on the other side. Now I'm pretty sure I die here because what happened was on the last time, it was supposed to be the melee and the tank double soaking, and instead it was 3 people soaking. So I had to use my shift, and this time the 3 of us that are soaking are all 3 of the people without the defensives, and the 2 people that haven't used any of their defensives aren't the ones soaking. So that's just bad communication and bad play on our part. But thankfully I have the Shaman defensive onk, so it doesn't really matter if I die. But yeah, it makes it much easier if you only have to heal 2 people through it, and if the people soaking, of course, have defensives as well. It's also really nice if you just have someone who's like, we could have had like our mage like go in and block or whatever. I wish I could have done a better job of showing you that. But basically, yeah, it's just like you have the 4 statues and you just like stand like almost like in his hitbox on either side of like where the lines are going, and you just have 2 people. So this is just like kind of like a bad run where we were just like, oh, the key's over, and we kind of stopped trying. So yeah, it lost us a little bit of time on what could have been a really good time for us. I think we also trolled a little bit with statues here. Yeah, other than that, this dungeon is, I don't know, I think it's like a healer. It's probably like one of my favorites just because it's so chill. So much of like what goes wrong in this dungeon is really up to your tank. This dungeon is really, in my opinion, just a bit of a tank dungeon, a bit of a damage check as well, and just making sure that you have like a good enough route, because you can pull really big in this dungeon and get away with it because you don't have to use any of your CDs on pride most of the time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and thank you.